Hello, cosmonaut. Today we are going to be exploring what Reddit ask. What's one thing that you will take to the grave, but can tell internet strangers? Answer 1. My grandfather's youngest brother was murdered in the late 50s. The brother was a door-to-door salesman and called a man's wife, honey, on his pitch. The man overheaded and shot him. The local sheriff deemed it was justified because he shouldn't have called another man's wife honey. My grandfather and his other brother later killed that man. Both came home that night covered in blood and told my grandmother that when the sheriff comes around to tell him they were home all night drinking and playing cards. My grandfather told me that story when I asked him why did he drink so much. Answer 2. My father died of leukemia, but before I knew diagnosis, he had a massive bleed on his brain a second time, and I had to carry him down the stairs. I accidentally bumped his head off the doorframe, and from that moment that happened to the last 3 days he was alive. He never talked once as he lost the ability to talk and was gasping for air till he passed away. Ever since I bumped his head by accident, it feels like I'm responsible for making his death faster. And the guilt is eating me inside. But now, if I think about it, if I had not bumped his head, would he still be alive and suffered more from his leukemia for more than 3 days? I'm still missing him. Is an understatement, but I feel like I let him down at the end of his life. No one else knows about this, and am 100% taking this to the grave with me. Answer 3. As a neuroscientist with substantial focus on speech, it's vanishingly unlikely that you would have had any negative influence here. Speech issues after a bleed on the brain are super common. So much of the cortex is involved in planning or producing speech, and substantial damage to those areas can be really deleterious to speech production. It happened to my granddad, my niece, and now 2 friends of mine. For a hit to the head to cause that sort of impairment, it would have to be substantial, like doing it deliberately would be very effortful. But I understand how, vulnerable it feels to try and care for someone in substantial decline. It almost feels like it's better to take blame or what if the situation after the fact, because maybe that's just more comforting than the idea that maybe things like this are just going to happen no matter what. You cared, and that's the best thing in the world. Hope you still hold on to that bit. Answer 4. I've become best friends with my sister's husband over the years of them dating and getting married, and honestly wouldn't know what to do without a friend like him in my life. But I think she is terrible for him in many ways, including the way she treats him. And I think she has significantly held him back in life, and he could be much further along in life and career if it wasn't for her being dead weight. I've never told anyone this. Answer 5. I matched with this girl. She was just turning 19. I was 20. We dated for just under a year, met her parents, met her friends, went on holidays together. I found out by her older sister that she was actually 15 when we first met, and I celebrated her 16th with her, not her 19th. Her parents knew how old I was and never said a thing. Even her parents went along with her job position as a teacher assistant. So even dropping her off at the school she worked at didn't make me question anything. She admitted it when I asked her about it. I broke it off immediately. I'm still scared to this day that she will say something and I'll get imprisoned for statutory rape. Answer 6. This one sucks. My dad got into some severe health issues and almost didn't come home from the hospital. Him and his brother never really talked, but his brother mentioned that he could come down and visit Dad when he was home recovering from his illness. It's important to note that Dad lives in a tiny town about 30 miles away from his brother. The night that he was supposed to visit my dad, I saw him in the local diner, which is located a few blocks away from my dad's house. We didn't talk or wave. I just saw him as he was passing by on the way to the bathroom. I asked my dad if he had seen his brother that night, since his brother went 30 miles out of his way to go to the diner, so I figured that he had stopped by to see Dad too. He never did. He flaked on my dad. His brother died 2 nights later of a heart attack. I can't tell my dad that I saw his brother and his brother flaked on him while he was just down the road sitting at home. Answer 7. I was dating a girl in high school who was deathly scared of her ex. After a few months of dating, she admitted it was because he repeatedly raped her. I confronted him. He admitted it and laughed. I coerced him into fighting me at the end of a dirt road in the middle of nowhere. Myself and another friend beat him unconscious, stripped him naked, stole his truck, and left him for dead. He did survive, but he ended up transferring schools shortly after. Answer 8. I legitimately think one of my cousins was born, is pure evil, or at least suffers from some kind of undiagnosed sociopathy or something. I can't tell my family or anyone who knows him because they'll look at me like I'm crazy, except his younger sister. You probably wouldn't see it yourselves. My cousin is a charming, good-looking, and at least on the surface nice guy. Animals like him a lot too. He comes from a fairly healthy home environment and his siblings are good people, but I've known him since he was born. We grew up very close. There is something deeply wrong with him. One of my first memories of him is seeing him pinching his own baby sister and smiling when she cried, and him encouraging me to do the same. My granddad was a farmer who did some dog breeding, training as a side hustle. When we were 6 years old, one of our grandfather's dog had a bunch of puppies. He let all his grandkids play with the puppies for a day. My cousin wandered off with one of these puppies on his own. Later, I found him strangling it to death. He claimed it attacked him, and he was defending himself. My grandfather reluctantly gave him the benefit of the doubt, although he wasn't allowed near my grandfather's dogs again. At school, he was a bully. Not the type to go beat a kid up himself, but the type who would do a mix of inciting others to do so and looking for ways to humiliate people. If this was a high school movie, he would be one of the bullies gang that watches in the background, although he never really had any close friends to do that. One time, he befriended this guy, got him to confess to some embarrassing stuff in private, then told everyone about it. Another time, he stole someone's belongings and planted them on someone else, trying to incite them to fight. He has weird relationships with women. I don't think he's physically abusive, but from what I've seen, it's all quite borderline, are emotionally abusive. I also know for a fact he's cheated on pretty much every girlfriend he's had, and there was at least one girl in high school whose nudes he might have leaked too. One of his on and off girlfriends has some mental health issues. I don't really know what her issues are exactly, but she's attempted to commit suicide a few times. One time she called him on the phone at a family gathering threatening to do so. His reaction? He laughed and told her to do it. Only myself and his sister overheard that part. He told everyone that she was just attention-seeking and not to worry, despite the fact that he already knew she had attempted at least once before. There was this guy in college he had a big rivalry with. They were both vying for the same position on the soccer team. I think it started as some kind of prank thing, but it escalated. Eventually, the other dude lost his shit and beat my cousin up badly for no apparent reason, getting expelled in the process. I have since spoken to the other guy. He claims he did this because my cousin spiked him on a night out and implied he sexually assaulted him whilst he was blackout to provoke him. This guy never went to the police though, so make of that what you will. If you ignore a lot of the superficial elements of his charm, he's actually not a particularly open individual. He lies constantly. Pretty much every conversation with him will have him probing to find out as much about you as possible whilst giving very little about himself away. Oftentimes, what little he does tell you about himself are lies and half-truths. He's been that way since we were both children, although he's far more polished now. I even remember asking him when we were both kids, "Why do you lie all the time?" And his response was, "Because it's fun." I don't think he ever really has or had true friends. He has people he's friendly with or socializes with, and he has people who are weirdly devoted, dependent on him. He discards both as and when he needs to, or just bored of them. There was this month where he sort of just disappeared, stopped showing up to work, stopped his messages to his mother, told none of his friends or girlfriends. I think a missing persons report might have been filed. He resurfaced, eventually claimed he had a new job overseas that he had been interviewing traveling for. He must have had evidence to prove this because it was all dropped without hassle. That's just off the top of my head. There is other stuff, but I legitimately believe he's a monster. Hey you, if you enjoying the video, subscribe for more histories. Answer 9. I've had multiple kids in my care as a nanny. Hit big milestones while mom and dad are away at work. I've never told them unless it was a safety hazard, i.e., baby rolls over and is still swaddled for sleep. Baby pulls up to stand and crib is not lowered. Taking all those first rolls, first steps, first mamas to the grave. Answer 10. My grandmother lived with us when I was growing up. When I got my driver's license, I had to share a car with her. One time I was trying to back out of a really tight spot and scraped the car next to me. I did a hit and run and never told anyone about it. When my parents saw the scrape on our car, they asked both of us about it, and I denied knowing anything. My grandmother also denied it, of course, but because she was old, 88 at the time. My parents assumed she did it and forgot. We later determined she was actually developing Alzheimer's, caused a huge fight, and caused them to take her keys away and not let her drive anymore. I never told anyone, and got sole use of the car for myself with the stipulation that I needed to drive her to church every week or anywhere else she wanted to go. This happened about 25 years ago and she passed a few years later. Answer 11. I was in the hardest class I ever took in college, with a professor I'd had for a few other classes as well. The class was basically reading and discussing, with grades based on 3 papers that were to culminate in our final paper. When I went to write the first paper, I went to the professor and told him I was completely lost, and I had no idea what we had been discussing, and I didn't know how to write the paper. His response was, "You know more than you think, you'll be fine once you get started." Well, I spent about 3 hours literally just bullshitting to make the word count requirement, figured I totally failed, and turned it in. When I got it back with an A, I was honestly confused, and told him I literally just bullshitted the entire thing. There's no way I deserve that grade. He was amused that I was arguing about getting a good grade, and simply told me the subject was so in-depth, there was no way I could have just bullshitted my way through. and that I just wasn't used to trying that hard until that class. Well, still blows my mind to this day. Answer 12. I used to be a cam girl during COVID times, and while I was prepared for it to get sexual, it ended up being more of a comforting social thing where a small group of people, mostly men, tuned in to watch me play some games and just hang out with me, while scantily clad LOL. Sometimes people would come in and pay for me to do something semi-sexual or take off a piece of clothing or whatever, but mostly it was rather innocent, and I've heard from several of my regulars that those streams got them through a very rough time. Answer 13. I'm very much suicidal, but I can't bring myself to actually follow through. I can't afford therapy either, and my only experience with inpatient treatment was extremely scary and deeply traumatic. I've pretty much given up on life. I actively hate myself. I don't want to live in this world if this is the world I have to live in. But actual suicide is something I just keep putting off. I drift through each day, technically being on the path to doing something with my life, going through the motions of actually trying, all the while hoping I get hit by a bus or something. The biggest thing in the way of me actually following through on offing myself is the fact that it would seriously hurt the people I love. I can't tell anyone about this because I care too much about the people in my life to burden them with this information when they're already dealing with their own shit. Answer 14. I'm glad my grandmother, I'll call her Judy, died, especially that she did, before my grandfather did. My grandfather cheated on my actual grandmother with Judy. It led to their divorce, and he eventually married Judy. For the rest of her life, Judy made it her mission to drive a wedge between him and our family. She encouraged him not to speak to my aunt for 25 years. She constantly canceled holiday dinner plans with our family at the last minute. A week after she died, he begged my mom to have my aunt come visit. They reconnected and had a great relationship until he died. My grandfather should have stood up against her. He wasn't perfect, but it was obvious he was doing it mostly because of her. His last days proved how much he loved his family and how sorry he was. I hope you're burning in hell, Judy. You fucking deserve it. Answer 15. Hope I'm not too late. I'm a very confident person who doesn't feel like I need directions to do things because most things seem self-explanatory or simple enough that my common sense would figure it out. I don't mind direction from a person, but I don't read directions. Here goes nothing. So when I was maybe 19, I had to give my DRs a poop sample because there was a little blood when I wiped my butt and the DR just wanted to get it tested. IDK. They gave me a little insert for the toilet bowl to catch the poo, a sample cup, and an envelope. I thought, psh, what do I need the directions in the envelope for? Clearly I catch the poop with the toilet bowl insert and use a glove to put a little piece of poop in the cup. Easy. I completed the task the next morning, walked into the diagnostics lab, and I had wrapped the sample cup up in paper towels, and in a Ziploc BC I was embarrassed, and someone asked if I needed help. I said, I'm here to drop off my sample, and pulled out my sample cup with a little turd in it, and the person literally stared in disbelief. I put the sample cup on the table and walked out wondering why he was looking at me like that. So I get home and I'm about to throw out this envelope and I'm like, well, let me open it up and see what it says. Bruh, it wasn't just directions. There was a spoolie and a little card with a slide-out window. I was supposed to take the spoolie and with gloves on, mush it around the poop a little bit, and then dab the sample into the window on the card. I was only supposed to give them an envelope with a card that contained my small sample. But instead I brought an entire turd in a sample cup to the reception desk. This is my real-life LMFAO. Answer 16. It's embarrassing as FK, but it's good to get the weight off the chest, so here goes. Me and my sister used to experiment when we were younger. Don't really know how it started or how it ended, but we're on very good terms and love each other a lot. We never talk about it, but I know we both think about it. If I ever brought it up, I'm not sure how that would go. I'm older, so I feel worse about it. So I treat her very nicely and respectfully. However, she's very touchy with me, and it's sometimes hard to differentiate between just sister stuff or something more. You're welcome, internet strangers. I will never speak a word of this out loud. Answer 17. When I was 18, I got an awesome blowjob from a 31-year-old while I talked to her husband in the phone. He was in prison for manslaughter. They were friends with my mom. I went to her house to drop off something my mom bought for her. Husband was asking me if I had seen his wife with other men, or if I thought she would start dating while he was locked up. After about 5 minutes of this and her going at it, I told him I had to go to work. He asked me to give his wife the phone. I didn't want her to stop until I was finished, so I told him she went to get her kid from school and wasn't there. The following week, her and I had sex. The blowjob was the absolute best. Had better sex with the wife, separated, of another guy. She was 28. I was still 18. To this day, that is the best sex I have ever had. My wife today is really, really good, but not like that one. Okay, that's my secret. Hey you, subscribe for more histories. Answer 18. Many moons ago, a small group of friends and I started a massive forest fire, completely accidentally while hiking, camping. Apparently our campfire, properly guarded with rocks and space from trees, but ultimately in the wrong place, set fire to a root system that tunneled underneath the ground and ignited a fire, which burned through thousands of acres of forest. We woke up to what was supposed to be a dead fire pit, completely extinguished the night before, but instead looked like a huge smoldering sinkhole of roots lit up with embers which went down through a cliffside and onto a plain of dry grass and old trees. We tried to extinguish it, but no one had brought anything to capture enough water from the nearby water source and carry it over to douse all the embers in flames. So we left for town. When we got back to town, the news was reporting what had happened. No, I won't link. Answer 19. In 7th grade, we had to do a school project in Spanish where we learned prepositions and had to do a little dance to illustrate them, like putting our hands to our left and saying left in Spanish. I did not want to do this project and did everything in my power, even skipping class. I had extreme undiagnosed anxiety and other mental issues, but it didn't work. My Spanish teacher forced me to do it and even got a camcorder to record me doing it, and I was crying the whole time, doing the whole dance half-heartedly while whipping tears from my eyes. I asked her if we could stop multiple times and she said no. I hope she destroyed that video. I don't remember how the day ended. I think I blocked it all out. Most humiliated I've ever felt in my life. Middle school was the worst part of my life and I have my more stories I never want to relive. Answer 20. Had sex with my boss's wife. To be fair, he had been cheating on her for years and they're now divorced. She found out about him cheating around and I guess just wanted to get back at him. I was more than happy to oblige her all night long and the next day and night, etc., etc.
That was enough for today, Cosmonaut. I'll wait for you in the next travel.